It would be a lot of fun.
I'm just going to be beat down this episode.
It's going to be so much fun.
Welcome to Disparate Worlds, where an irresistible force meets an immovable object. I'm Mox, and this is Sakari, and we are comparing and contrasting the worlds of Ashes of Creation and Pantheon Rise of the Fallen.
Wait, you put Ashes of Creation first?
I did this time. For some reason, it just jumped into my head first, so I went
Excellent.
with it.
Well, it is alphabetically first on the list, so maybe you've owed it to us for a while.
Well, I figure I have some bones to pick with it, so maybe I have to uplift it a little bit before I kick it down a couple notches.
Yeah, there you go. What's it they call it? The crap sandwich. The nice part in the front of the end, and the stuff is in the middle.
Yep.
So, hello, friends. Welcome again to episode 32, where, of course, Mox has some serious issues. Namely with other people's content. So
I should have issues with our content, but I somehow let that slide.
Yeah, well, you know, we should do a critical video of our own stuff, but really we just kind of sprinkle it throughout. So you can't get rid of us if you wanted to. So do the like and subscribe thing, notification bell, all of those deals is always very helpful. We'd love to have your feedback. If there is some tripe that Mox is spewing throughout this episode, we welcome your striking him down. Be as critical of Mox as you want in the comics. We invite it the whole time. It would be a lot of fun.
I'm just going to be beat down this episode.
It's going to be so much fun. Yes. So if you haven't guessed already, the content of this episode is going to be Mox's endless cattle farming. Namely because he has beefs with all kinds of things. But more specifically with the TheLazyPeon's latest video, named Still Genuinely the Most Exciting Upcoming MMORPG. So he posted it August 11th, 2022. We'll have a link down below. Go check out the video if you haven't already. Get familiar with it. There's a thing or two that Mox noticed in the content that he would love to discuss. So we're going to do that. We'll dedicate an episode to it.
I do want to remark that not only do I have beefs with these couple things, but also with your terrible jokes.
They're getting more and more as we go. I'm
more and more terrible
power.
Whatever.
You'll see. I'll unleash my fury upon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me take a little bit from my managerial training, and we're gonna do the sandwich method here. We're gonna say something good, and then we're gonna talk about the things that aren't great, and then I'll say something good to wrap it up again. So, first of all, the TheLazyPeon put out a very comprehensive recap, overview, however you want to kind of qualify it. It was like an update to a previous video he'd done a couple years back, covering like all the aspects of Ashes of Creation. And
it's the one that went viral and really just blew Ashes up, right? Yeah, got a lot of people following.
And he's a phenomenal content creator, but there just were a couple things that struck me as just needing to be addressed. I don't want to say corrected, but
sure you do.
Okay, maybe I do. But that I don't want to take away from his his professional quality, his research. He said he put over 40 hours into that, which is an upgrade from our like 40 minutes per episode. So
we just came up with our show notes like 30 minutes ago, right?
Right, but it took us about 40 minutes, so
We're lazy, all right?
So number one, map size. Like he touted the map size, like as if Ashes of Creation was coming out with the biggest map ever in MMO history, and it's not even a blip on the radar as far as size is concerned as with MMOs. I tried to find the size of Final Fantasy XIV. But that's been around for a long time also, and World of Warcraft also been around for a long time. A lot of expansions, map sizes are big. But just for example, so the Vera is reported to be 480 square kilometers, about 185 square miles.
This is at launch.
Yeah,
Is
at
that with the
launch,
plan with
right.
all of the nodes? Okay.
Yeah. Asheron's Call was 800 square miles. Lord of the Rings Online, 30,000 square miles. EVE Online, 326,000 square miles. And there are others that dealt with the multiple planets where it just was really incalculable. Like, they were just like a multitude of planets and
3 million
space.
light years.
Yeah, like, so, yes, it's nice, it's pretty, it's a great world, but I don't think touting its size is really something you want to hang your hat on, so to speak.
Okay. Honestly, if you're quibbling with data, okay, I see that. I mean, like, I don't. To me, I get in and play these games, and I'm glad there's a huge, big open world. I don't necessarily know how you can really compare sizes of maps, because as long as it's big enough and you can find all kinds of things to do in it, it's all right. You know what I'm saying? But I don't have an issue with if it's actually smaller than some of those things that are out there.
Right.
I know EVE Online is incredibly huge as well. I don't have that data in front of me, right? But you get some of these that
EVE Online's 326,000 square miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and by square miles, I mean, but it's space based, right? So, that's playable area, I suppose, right?
I don't know. Some of these maps, their size does include water. So, that is, I don't think all of Lord of the Rings Online, like every square inch of it is playable. I'm sure there is some desolate areas and water and stuff included in that 30,000 square miles. But it's still, even if we're talking, 20% of it is non-playable, we're still talking ginormous.
Yeah, large maps. And I think there's a degree to which quality versus quantity is also an aspect of this.
Oh, 100%.
You can have procedurally generated maps that go on forever, but there's no content in them. They're just traversable.
It's all repeated. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Repeated or tiled or whatever. You get that.
Right.
When these folks are certainly hand making maps very carefully these days,
right,
and that has a direct impact on the content. If you make it too big, sometimes a smaller map is actually more, I think, useful because it contains a player within a region where you can, you don't want them, getting lost or whatever. So I don't necessarily have a quibble or like a counterpoint necessarily. I agree probably that if it's touted to be, hey, this is the biggest map out there, it's probably a large map. I mean, let's give it to, but comparatively versus other games,
right?
Fair enough,
Yeah.
No problem.
And the other thing was he talked about the scope of it and kind of all the features. And one of the things he mentioned was 9 playable races. And we addressed this way back, like one of our first handful of episodes. We talked about the races of both Ashes and Pantheon. That Ashes really does not have 9 races. They have 5 races, and then they have divisions between them. So really, there's 5 races, not 9. It's just a matter of like what type of dwarf do you want to be, what type of elf do you want to be, what type of human you want to be, what type of orc do you want to be, and then the Tulnar are just all lumped together. So like they kind of do it both ways here. They have these like they split some of the races, and then they just said, oh well, we got the Tulnar. They're just these 3 different things, but they're all the same.
Yes.
So either they're all the same because they're the same, or they're different because they're different. So which is it? And I just want some honesty from this, but this really comes from Ashes, not from the Lazy Peon.
Exactly. I think you're quibbling more with Ash's presentation, although it's been repeated, right, in the Lazy Peon's video. But absolutely.
Yeah. So
okay.
So those are my bones that I wanted to pick regarding the data, and then we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about like the scope of the game. Like that was like a good chunk of his video was like this is a that's got the largest scope. So you got all these features in there, and I didn't even count them. There's probably like 25 or so features he listed. And my question to you, Sakari.
No. I'm giving you enough rope to hang yourself by.
No. I'm asking you the question
Just
here
keep
now.
talking.
Do we need all of them on launch? Like at launch, do we need every single one of these features?
Yeah. All right. So to give our viewers a bit of an idea as to what we're talking about, right? If you look at what all is planned for the launch of Ashes of Creation, there's the stuff that you would expect to have in any MMO, right? Obviously the map, there's PvP, open world PvP, the ability to pick between different races. By the way, these races, let me just comment on that real quick. I think races is probably a bad word to use. I mean, they in the history of playable races, that's what I think what they're glomming onto. That when you spin up a character, you get to pick from these divisions. Okay, if you want to use the word race and quibble with that, I think that's fair. But groups of people with separate and distinct cultures, if you want to interpret that loosely, I think that's kind of where that comes from. Anyway, without belaboring that, there's a lot of other stuff, right? There's world bosses, raids, things that you get in all kinds of MMOs. Right. But then you have features that are going to be Ashes of Creation specific. You have castle sieges. You have the nodes in the node system, the ability to move caravans between them if you want to. Every local market is node specific. It's not a global market like you would get everywhere else. Transmogrification. There are all the classes is a very robust system. Pets is kind of like a nice to have in all MMOs, and sure enough, you're going to see it here as well. But parlor games and taverns, right? Some very monster coin events. Those are new. The ability to actually, if monsters are attacking a node with the chance of deleveling at some, you can jump in on the monster side and help. Right. Actually add a PvP aspect to a very PvE mechanic, right? Right. Land combat, water combat. There is a lot, 3 different forms of player housing, right? There is a lot in the Ashes of Creation design, right, getting staged for launch.
Right, and so I agree with him that scope-wise, this is the biggest MMO. Right. It has the most features that they're attempting to get at launch. Than anything. Like a lot of other ones, games, MMOs have brought player housing in 2 or 3 expansions down.
Right.
It's not like we want to get. And you had mentioned to me when we were discussing this topic that there's a software term for this. So you want to chat about that a little bit? Sure.
Right. Yeah. So in software, and they've kind of done this in MMOs as well. In fact, games do this very often, right? I've seen this happen moreover. Is that it's what we call the MVP in software development. It does not mean most valuable player. It means minimum viable product, right? So what you do is you plan, okay, in order to get this thing going, because nobody's playing the game until it's been published, it's out there. Right. Now people are playing it, so at least they're getting value from the game. So what do we have to do to get this thing across the finish line in a very rudimentary form, even if it's not as robust as we'd like for it to be ultimately? Let's get it over the finish line. And that means that because we're concentrating on doing less work, we can get that stuff right, get it out there, and then in 2.0, 3.0, we can do further iterations that add features. And every MMO that you've ever seen does this. They come out with expansions, new content, right? So the game evolves over time as you go. Right. So why not Ashes of Creation? It seems like there's a lot that they're trying to put in that, which is delaying. And I think this is your argument, right, Marks, that it's delaying the launch of this game.
It's complicating the launch. How about that?
Right. Complicating the launch. Yeah, there's more to test, obviously. There's more intricacy and more complexity. More things could go wrong. Obviously, the more there is to it, the more, obviously, there is delays as a result of just software development and what you have to do to test and make sure everything's working.
Right. Now, you have to understand that in this list, there are certain things that are intrinsic to the game that you can't eliminate. Like, for example, the caravan system.
Right, the node, nodes, absolutely.
You can't decide. Well, we're going to have the put a mail system in, let's say, and then introduce caravans down the road, because that intrinsically would be a different game than what Ashes is shooting for. You need to have the arenas, because you have to have the ability to elect a mayor in the military nodes, right?
Yeah, military type. Yeah,
so they do the last man standing he mentioned in the video. So there's a lot of this stuff is intrinsic to the game, and you have to have it, and that's just the way it is. But I think that there's a handful of things in here that could be delayed, and doesn't even need to be delayed until a 2.0. It could be delayed until, like, when you when it launches, it'll be Ashes 1.0. That'll be vanilla. Then 1.1 generally is like the first major like fixes. So probably that, like, it would probably be more like a 1.2, 1.3 type of thing. All right, we're going to bring in this feature in 1.2 because we were almost ready to go with it, but we wanted to get this out the door and didn't want this holding it up.
All right, so what are some examples of things that you think we could wait on and bring in later?
First of all, it'd be monster coin events. Like, I think that having something that is complicating this whole thing of, they don't de-level nodes. They are something that probably aren't going to be happening in the first couple weeks of the game anyway.
Okay.
I mean, you and I often talk about content vultures, and yes, it's possible to have nodes that are progressing, but I think that they're going to be throttling that stuff pretty heavily. They're not going to want they're not going to want a level 5 node in a week.
Yeah, not in a week. I guarantee you within 3 days we're going to see level 3 nodes, right? Because that's the town level. People are going to get to work, I promise you. And you've seen. So one of the things I want to make sure we put on the radar here is what we saw in Star Wars: The Old Republic when that thing launched in 2011, I want to say.
Yeah.
And in fact, they've said this. They absolutely did not anticipate a player's ability to consume content. People had finished playing the game within the first week, right, and were max level, and there was nothing waiting for them at endgame to do. So they
had to rush raids.
Right, they had to come up with some content for people to do, and it was a problem. Yeah. Now, granted, if you were like you and me, you turn around and play the next class, and you turn around and play the next class. There's a lot of stuff that people could have done, but just nothing waiting for them at endgame.
Yeah.
Repeatable content helps. I think that's where your open world PvP comes in. I think one of the things that you had on this list that maybe could have waited for later was aquatic combat, right? Getting on ships and fighting each other, naval combat, right? Parlor games. I don't know. Like I think a lot of this absolutely could be optional. You could wait on it, sure.
Yeah.
My attitude on this though is bring it on.
Yeah.
And it's not just because I'm an Ashes of Creation shill.
Well, you can't be a shill unless you're getting paid.
Right, yeah, no kidding. Yeah, you paid me. I'll sell this thing for you for sure. No, I'm telling you, the more I am seeing the direction here, the more I think that Ashes of Creation is going to be enormous. I think that whatever the server capacity that Intrepid has in mind for launch day, they better multiply that by 30. Get more and more servers out there, because I'm telling you, this thing is going to be huge, and players are going to go in every which direction, and you want launch to be huge. You want the performance to go well enough, because if it doesn't go well enough, then you've got all of that. You never erase that from your history, right? Oh, they had a rocky launch. You've got to have your launch go well, and then you can't within 2 weeks have a dip of 90% like we saw in New World. Right. 2 weeks, I think, is a little harsh to say that, right? But within 3 months, right, the vast majority of the player, there's only 10% of the people left playing it. Why would that be? And I think the more you have in the world for people to do, the less chance there is of that, right? You want the retaining of that launch audience, I think, is necessary as well.
I agree with you, but again, if we're talking about, let's say naval combat's going to come in the first month, and tavern stuff's going to come in, let's say, I'm not talking about necessarily waiting forever for this stuff or waiting 6 months for this stuff. I'm saying, let's focus on the nodes, make sure the nodes can level up, because and I do need to say that I stated, I think in the last episode, that the node system wasn't working, and to clarify that, it was some of the nodes were not working properly, and some of the nodes were leveling properly.
If I recall, there was 1 or 2 nodes where they had to actually artificially level them up,
right? Because
somehow the thing wasn't calculating all of the experience that was being generated within that node's area. Right? There was a glitch in the So they bumped it up. But there were other nodes that were working. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I had put castle sieges on my list of things that could be delayed. But really, in thinking about it, and like right before we went live with the recording here, that probably is very similar mechanics to node sieges. So it really is probably just a matter of minor tweaks. So like castle sieges probably could be in
you
there.
just copy that functionality and scale it regionally as opposed to within a smaller region.
Right. But I think so my list is the Monster Coin events, the taverns with parlor games, pets, naval combat, and seasons. Like, again, these are things that seasons maybe all could be off the list, but the other things I really think that they could wait and they could focus maybe on the guild system or focus on getting quests written. And it could be also maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe there's different people that are doing these, so they really aren't overlapping and aren't delaying things. But to me, the more features means if you have naval combat, then you're gonna have quests tied to naval combat. So that's gonna still complicate things. So I think that you could just bring it back a little bit and then and get the core right, and then get these ancillary systems, bring them in quickly, but not
they would have been in development for a while prior to launch regardless. I mean, if you want to get them out there in a first patch, second patch kind of a thing, roll out new things, then, and who's to say we won't necessarily see that? That may still happen. You know what I'm saying? I know that the conversation so far has been, we are planning to have this all, out there at launch. Who knows, right?
We're still a ways from launch.
We are still a ways from launch. I know the idea is to, these are on the design books, and these are things that we're working on. We're scaling. We're working. La la la.
Yeah.
But I mean, think about it. We haven't seen any previews of naval combat. They've spoken some about it. There's plans. We've seen cosmetics for ships. Absolutely. So we know it's in their design docs. We know that they're working on it. But at this stage, we haven't seen any kind of, and so. Maybe it's still coming. Maybe it's in the timeline prior to launch, but maybe it will be delayed. I don't know.
Right, because all these things that the systems they want to bring in will have to be available at some level of an alpha. If I would think if they want them to be in launch.
Well, this brings in the discussion about feature complete and what exactly that we mean by that. I would say probably not by alphas, but certainly by betas. Betas is when you're really wanting to, at that stage, have everything out there, and you want to subject it to stress testing, right? It's really the last kind of stuff. So feature complete is more of a beta thing. I think specific aspects of things would be.
You don't think they would want to alpha test naval combat? Or will that be reserved to a test server type of situation?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I would think it would be alpha test. I mean, if there's enough to it, I think it probably needs to be alpha test, especially if it has, impact. Especially if there's interconnectivity with other systems. Right. Is the oceans are not necessarily node territory. I think it may just be open. There may be quests to do on the water.
The Lazy Peon did mention naval caravans.
Yeah.
So I assume that if he mentioned it, that it has been mentioned by the devs at some point.
Yeah, I think it would be so fun to be a pirate in this game. Just pick your own, pick your own, and that's half the fun. It's a big open world, and you get to choose what you do. If you want to be a caravan raider, and that's how you make your money, then you go do that. If you want to be a caravan protector or get legendary for moving goods and being the Han Solo that is able to do it in no time, or if you want to be a pirate, you can. Right. But you've got to have all of these tools in place in order to facilitate players getting in there and finding their place in their own world. I think feature rich is a good thing. I think I agree with you, perhaps, that some things could be delayed. But honestly, I think, and it will. Yes, there's more to do. It will delay launch. I don't know that I'm not okay with them delaying launch for a more robust thing at launch. Because I just know that there's going to be so many people playing. Everyone's going to be doing stuff. You're going to get those people that blast to max level in 2-3 days. And then they'll want to go find, okay, what's next for me? What is out there for me to do? And, they'll be, you have to wait on world bosses and raids for other people to catch up. you know, so what are they sitting around doing? I don't see them sitting in a tavern playing parlor games, you know, but maybe, you know, maybe raiding on the waters. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. So, you know, I'd like to know what our victims think about this. You know, hopefully they will. Namely you. Well, I mean, like, what they think, like, do they agree, like, that some of these things could be delayed? Do they agree with you that the more is better, you know, to stave off the content locusts? So
yeah, comments.
In theory, you know, it's supposed to be player-driven content to a degree. It's supposed to be a what did he call it? A sand park. Right. Is that right? So
yeah, it's a hybrid between sandbox, classic sandbox, where you can do anything you want, go find things to do, and then
theme park. So, you know, and hopefully the PvP will be, you know, will be engaging enough that it will, you know, help with that. And, you know, with nodes leveling and de-leveling, you have those issues as well, so that, you know, you have things to do. So we'll see, I guess. But let us know what you think in the comments. Please vehemently disagree with me if you think I'm full of crap.
Yes, do it now.
All right, check us out on Facebook.com/DisparateWorlds, on Twitter @DisparateWorlds, our website disparateworlds.org, and on our Patreon, patreon.com/DisparateWorlds. In addition, on our website and in the description below is a link to our Discord. Please join us there and textually abuse me.
sounds like so much fun, guys. PvP before this thing even starts. It's gonna be fun. All right. For sure. Thank you very much for viewing. I always appreciate you. That'll be it for us for the most part for this episode, although I know it's going to get started in the comments, so here we go. Along those lines, drop a comment. We'd love to hear from you for sure. We do the like, the subscribe thing. That's always important as well. Notification bell. That way you will receive notification as to when our next layer of abuse is out there. All of that said, take care of yourselves, friends. Remember always to be immovable in your principles and irresistible in your passion.